We all have 24 hours in a day. So why is it that some people, they achieve outsized results? You're thinking, how in the world do they do all this while other people stay stuck? In my opinion, it's one thing that moves the needle. Research shows that if you commit to a goal publicly, you're 65% more likely to succeed. But if you add an accountability partner, that jumps to 95%. So that one thing that you need is accountability. And not even just accountability, but it's accountability plus an accountability partner and a mechanism that holds you accountable. I don't see anyone else that uses a process like this. And I believe that it's a key ingredient if you want to achieve outsized results in your business and your life. So what I want to do in this video is I'm going to break down all the steps. How do you find an accountability partner? I'll show you how to do that. How do you set the goals? How do you run the meetings? And how do you make success inevitable through this accountability system with an accountability partner? Now, there's two key principles at work here. The first one is called the Kohler effect. This is a psychological phenomenon where people perform better when they work with people who are slightly more capable than they are. You've heard the saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, that's because when you look around and you see people winning, it inspires you to win. And then there's also this second philosophy is by Jim Rohn. He says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you look at your bank account, if you look at your yearly salary, if you look at your health and fitness, your weight, just look at the 5 people closest to you, you're the average. This is an undeniable fact that bears out in any person, anywhere, anytime. So the first part, and this is really a key ingredient of this process, is you got to find a good accountability partner. Now, this has worked for decades in all different genres. This is why, if you want to lose weight, you got a gym buddy, right? Or you got a trainer. This is why if you want to stop drinking, Alcoholics Anonymous, right? You want to stop smoking, get someone to hold you accountable. The same thing applies to your biggest goals in your life and in your business. What I like to look for is look around in my life and find the most disciplined, accountable person that I can. And so this is not something where you want to be, there's this thing called the TED triangle, all right? And there's a victim, there's a rescuer, and there's a persecutor. And it's fundamental behaviors that we all have. And so some of us want to be the rescuer. Right? And so this is not the time to be a rescuer. Don't find someone where you're the most accountable person. That's just not going to work, right? Unless you've got an iron will and steel discipline, you having an accountability partner who's less accountable than you is not going to set you up for success. And let's be honest, you wouldn't need an accountability partner if you had that type of discipline. Right? So the first step is you got to find someone who's more accountable than you. Now, this means that you might need to get outside of your family, or maybe this is someone at work. Maybe this is someone you got to go into a peer group or mentorship group, find a mentor. I don't care who it is or how you find them. You just got to look around and say, who is the most accountable person that I know? And what I like to do is kind of put a focus on this. Let's say I'm trying to get a lot better at business. Well, I'm going to find someone who's more successful than me at business and say, hey, I'd love to hold each other accountable. So that's how you find them, look around, find someone who's more accountable. And then how do you ask them? Well, you need to make this super low barrier to entry, all right? So say, hey, I've got a framework. I think this is gonna make you a lot more successful. And we've got this common goal that we're chasing after. Do you mind if we set up calls? Let's make it reversible. Okay, so this is kind of the puppy dog close if you've ever heard of that. If you make it reversible, then they're more likely to say yes. So what I like to do is say, hey, let's just try it for 3 months. We'll see if it works. At the end of that 3 months, if it's not working, we could stop. So you ask them, you get the yes, and then you need to make it as easy as possible, okay? So set up the meetings, set up the structure. Maybe you got a spreadsheet where you're putting your goals, all the stuff I'll walk through later in this video. But set it up, get the yes, and then start the process. Now, the last tip I'll give here is find someone with a like-minded goal. Okay, now at selfpublishing.com, we help facilitate this with people. If you're writing a book and someone else is writing a book, there's nothing like a common goal to unite both of you and hold you accountable. So that's kind of the cheat code. So if you're writing a book, well, then find someone else who's writing a book and then say, hey, let's hold each other accountable. Did you get your words done? How many words are you at, right? There's kind of some friendly competition, that sort of thing. But a common goal, really helpful, really important, and makes this whole process even more effective. Now that you found an accountability partner, how do we set the goals? Well, what I like to do, it's a simple framework. You can certainly do a different cadence if you want, is just monthly. All right, I want this to be a low barrier to entry. So you meet for 30 minutes or an hour each month to go over your goals. First thing here, you got to set SMART goals. So they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they're time bound. Really, really important. Kind of the litmus test that I use is, can the other person at the end of the month tell me if I hit my goals or not? Clearly and definitively. If the answer to that's no, they're probably not SMART goals. So you set the SMART goals. And then what I do is I have a spreadsheet. It's just Google Sheets. So both of you can be in there. And it's very simple. It's just the month and you've got 3 rows for your top 3 goals. All right. And those goals are in order of importance. This is really, really important. This is how I do everything. Goals, KPIs, anything. It's in order of importance. So you've got your top 3 goals. Your accountability partner's got your top 3 goals and they're visible. You define them prior to the first of the month. And then what I'll do is I'll have that meeting be at the very beginning of the month so you can recap. I'll talk about this a little bit later. You can recap what you did last month and what are the goals for the next month. So they're visible. And then inside of those goals, you've got leading and lagging indicators. Okay. So maybe some months it's really focused on, hey, we need an outcome in the business, or I need an outcome in my life. Maybe that outcome is I want to hit $1 million in revenue, or maybe that outcome is I'm going to lose 5 pounds. But then other months, I'm really focused on the leading indicators. So maybe if revenue is a bottleneck, well, then I need to make 100 calls, or I need to land 5 partnerships, or whatever the thing is. On the health and fitness side, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. So leading versus lagging indicators is important. Now that's the crash course on how to set monthly goals. If you want to learn more on this process, I've got a whole other video. Highly recommend checking it out. I go in depth on how I set goals for the year, for the quarter, for the month, all that stuff. So check out the video if you want to go more in depth on how to set really good goals each month. All right, next up is your accountability mechanism. Okay, so the first one is obviously the call. So you need to have a call that is set up every single month. Super simple. You can set up all of them at the start so you don't miss. Or at a minimum, what I'll do is I'll end the call by booking the next one. So this is just ensures that it never slips through the cracks. This is how, with my accountability partner, we've literally never missed a month in over a decade. So first thing, you've got the meeting there, because then I got to show up and report. Did I hit it? Did I not? Second thing is green red. All right. This is a framework I learned way back in my student painter days. I was in college. I was running a business. So you spend all weekend marketing and selling and trying to grow your business. And then on Monday, you would have your accountability call. So this was a weekly mechanism. And so I'd have my call with my boss and say, all right, Chandler, you put your goals in the spreadsheet. Did you hit them? Well, this, that, and the other happened. And he's like, okay, did you hit them? Well, right. And so a lot of times we tell a story to ourselves and we tell a story to someone else to justify hitting or not hitting our goals. And really all you need to know is, was it green or was it red? Did you hit it or did you not? This is a pretty simple framework and I use it all over the place. Instantly cuts to the chase. And then yes, maybe there's some commentary that needs to happen of, okay, hey, I struggle with my discipline. Okay, cool, let's talk about it. But it starts from a place of, and I know, did you hit it or not? And then we can add the commentary later. And the green red is just extremely crystallizing. So you got to do this ahead of your meeting and just put in green red. So you show up to the call, you got your spreadsheet, it's green or red. Now we can have commentary on the goals for the last month. And then the last thing that you can use to drive accountability is a reward or loss mechanism. So sometimes it's a reward. So, hey, whoever hits the most goals this month, I'm going to give you $100 if you beat me. So I've done that at times with my accountability partner. Or the other one could be a loss mechanism. My favorite one that I've seen here is just making it super intense and saying, if I do not hit this goal, I'm going to donate a decent chunk of money. You got to define that ahead of time. So whatever is significant for you, maybe it's $100, maybe it's $1,000. I'm going to donate this to a charity that I hate. If I don't hit my goal, I'm donating $1,000 to this charity for killing puppies. Okay, I hate that, but I got to do it if I miss my goal. And so you'd be surprised, maybe you've heard the saying, a lot of times the fear of loss is a bigger driver than the potential for gain. Or maybe you gamify it in the reward way where you say, hey, if I hit XYZ goal, I'm going to get this car that I always wanted. Or just like you do for your kids. Hey, if you do this thing, we're going to go get ice cream. So there's a reward mechanism. That's the last piece. Really, really helpful, because sometimes you get into those spots, and I've certainly, 10 years is a long time. I've gotten in those spots where you get a little bit complacent, so you need something to jazz it up and put some more accountability behind it. This reminds me of a concept that I learned from a guy named Dan Martell. I love it. He calls it rewards, stakes, tell everyone. Okay, so in any goal in his business or any goal that he's doing with anyone in life or in business, he said, what's the reward? So what happens if we hit this goal? What are the stakes? What happens if we do not hit this goal? And then tell everyone. And he thinks that if you just do those 3 things, success is inevitable and you're going to hit the goal. So now you've got kind of the core fundamental parts of this. Let's walk into what the meeting looks like. Okay, so I already told you it's 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Monthly, I like to do it over Zoom. You can do it however you want. You start, or your accountability partner starts, and you just go through, hey, how did I hit all my goals for last month? Did I hit or did I miss? Okay, over to you in the studio. How'd you do it? Did you hit or did you miss? And then I go through my goals for the next month. He goes through his goals for the next month. And then there's feedback. You know, maybe we're celebrating wins. Congratulations on hitting that thing. How'd you do it? I'd love some feedback. Maybe you're sharing what's working, or you're holding them accountable. There's been times where I've put goals into that sheet and my accountability partner said, hey, this seems a little off. It feels like you're focusing on dumb stuff this month. Like, what is this? Make this better. Or maybe he's saying, hey, this is not a SMART goal. And we all fall into these patterns as you think you're making SMART goals. But again, the litmus test I said earlier, can someone else clearly tell you if you hit the goal or not at the end of the month? If the answer to that is no, it's not a SMART goal. Sometimes you just sharpen each other's goals and help improve that. And then that's it. It's a pretty simple concept. You just run the meeting and then never end the meeting without booking the next one. That's probably the most important thing. If you haven't booked them out, it's just a simple thing. It saves you from either forgetting or just having one more thing over the next month. It's like, oh crap, I got to book that meeting, right? So never end without booking the next one, getting it on both people's calendars. The last thing I want to cover here is how to be a good accountability partner. Okay, there's a lot of people who maybe when I talked about the first concept, how to find a good accountability partner, you're thinking, gosh, I can't find any good accountability partners. But my question to you would be this: are you the type of accountability partner that you want? Are you the person that you would want to be on the other end of that call? If the answer is no, well then look in the mirror. Right? It's like any relationship. Relationships are a mirror. A lot of times what's driving us crazy is what we really need to change. Same thing goes with your accountability partner. So there's just kind of a few core things that you need to do here. Number one is show up consistently no matter what. You don't miss a meeting. If you reschedule it, you don't just say, hey, I got to cancel. You are responsible for showing up. And then if you got to move the meeting, it's now your responsibility to make sure that it gets back on the calendar, right? There's no excuses here. There's no, hey, I'm leaving it up to them. It's up to you to show up consistently. And I'll tell you, just like my dad told me when I went off to college, he said, Chandler, you just got to make me one promise, and that's that you show up to class. You know, if maybe you don't do the homework or maybe you don't write the essay or whatever, but if you just at least show up, 80% of success in life is just showing up. Right? If you just show up, you will at least get C's and C's get degrees. And so when it comes to your accountability calls, just show up 100% of the time. No matter what, you show up. And if you just do that, even when you're embarrassed, even when you feel like you're failing, even when you didn't hit your goals, or even when you didn't do the homework, you're gonna be a lot more successful. So that's the first thing, by far the most important thing. Second part of being a good accountability partner is not accepting mediocrity or excuses. And now it's gonna feel weird because if your accountability partner shows up and they're just kind of phoning it in, what is the path of least resistance for you? It's to let them off the hook. Now, I would argue, though, that is the meanest, cruelest thing that you can do for them. And it doesn't feel like it at the time. What's uncomfortable is conflict. It's uncomfortable to say, hey, man, what's going on? This ain't it. Be better. But it's actually the kindest thing that you can do, because here's the thing. Most people don't have people in their life who are nice enough to tell them the truth. All right. And I've got a mentor who talked about there's a difference between being nice and being kind. And a lot of times we're nice to someone at the expense of being kind, because being nice, I can say, hey, that's okay. You got it. But when really the kindest thing I can say to you is, hey, you've had these goals for 3 months in a row. You want to lose weight. Your actions aren't matching up with that. What's up? What's going to change? Do you want to do this or not? Because if you want to do this, I am your accountability partner. My job is to hold you accountable, not to fluff you up and not to just be nice to you. It's to be kind. And the kindest thing you can do is to take someone aside or be direct with them and say, hey, this isn't it. Right? And most people don't have someone in their life that's willing to do that. That's where you come in, even when it's comfortable. Okay, so second thing, don't accept mediocrity, don't accept excuses. And then the third thing, kind of in that vein, you got to know when to be their cheerleader and when to be their butt kicker. Sometimes people are down and they're thinking, man, I missed this 3 months in a row. And you got to know when to love them up and encourage them and say, hey, you can do this. I'm here to encourage you. But let's get practical. When can you commit to showing up to the gym? Can you carve out your first 2 hours tomorrow to make progress on this thing that you said was important, and do it in an encouraging and loving way? And this is just like coaches at selfpublishing.com. We have certain coaches that are more the encourager, certain coaches that are more the butt kicker, and we kind of pair people up based on how they are and what they need. Same thing with your accountability partner. You got to know when to say, this person needs a kick in the butt. They need someone to shake them up and say, this ain't it. And there's a quote that I love from Tony Robbins. He says, people don't change until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. Right? And so sometimes it's your job to show them that pain. Right? If you think about it, an alcoholic, they're not going to Alcoholics Anonymous until the pain of staying the same is far greater than the work that it's going to take to get sober. So that might mean they're getting a divorce. That might mean that their kids are moving out. That might mean that they're going to jail or some crazy event happened in their life. Well, now it's all of a sudden more painful to stay the same than it is to put in the work to be different. And so sometimes it's your job to galvanize and point to that pain and say, hey, this is the pain of not doing this. And I just want to let you know that you are choosing that pain if you stay down this route. So that's how to be a good accountability partner. And that's the accountability mechanism overall. I hope that you found this video helpful. This is one of those concepts that's often heard and rarely implemented. So it's one thing to hear about and know about this concept. It's another thing to actually implement it in your life. So that's what I encourage you to do as this video ends, is commit. Go find an accountability partner. Go set your goals and go set up your first meeting. If you implement this over a long enough timeline, your life will change. It is, like I said at the top of the video, it's the one thing. It's a mechanism that makes success inevitable, but it only works if you work it. So go implement. And if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We put a ton of effort into these videos. So if this was helpful for you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Comment below. I'd love to hear what stuck out to you the most. I read and respond to every single comment. So do those two things right now, and I'll see you in the next video.